Hi, and welcome to Unprepared Geeks, SmartBear's bi-weekly podcast about all things quality. We'll be discussing a few current topics from the perspective of testers, developers, and operations people out there. My name is Niclas.
I'm Erik.
I'm Henrik.
And my name is also Henrik.
The two Henriks. So let's get started straight away with the first news. InfoWorld published this great article about 10 programming languages that could shake up IT. So currently we're in the situation where there's a slew of programming languages coming out, and why do we think that is?
I think it's because it's fun to create languages. Basically, that's what it boils down to. Because I think while it was quite an informative article, it's wrong. Like, it's not going to shake up IT. Mm-hmm. It might swirl a little bit in the fringes.
But why is it happening? Why is it happening now? I mean, wasn't it fun to create programming languages 20 years ago?
Yeah, it was much harder.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
And I think that's we should credit the JVM somewhat for that.
Yeah, possibly. But there's also been great strides in all kinds of compiler technologies and things like this. Compilers are much better. Right. But of course, the JVM is a natural choice if you're like a language geek who don't have time to refresh your assembly. Mm-hmm. It's a quick way to get going.
Yeah. But still, it's kind of interesting to see that even though languages pop up very rapidly, still, I mean, the most popular languages in the terms of usage or whatever is often the languages that had been around the longest, right? I was thinking for C, for instance. Yep. I mean, that's been around for ages. Yeah. So it seems hard to like get that attraction that you really becomes the language.
But the funny thing here is like C and Java, which are normally counted as the biggest in terms of lines of code. Those are funny languages because virtually all operating systems, but like the big ones, are in one way or another C, C++ perhaps, like the entire enterprise market or half of it is Java. So it's I mean, Eclipse alone is what half of all Java code. I have no idea, but no, of course not. But still, you see what I mean. Lots of big things that have lived for a very long time contribute too much to this. If you were to filter out all like the big players, you would get a much more funny distribution.
So do we need yet another language? That's the question.
I like the thing about like iterating and deprecating things. I often encourage people to deprecate stuff and kill your babies and that kind of stuff, because otherwise you will wake up one day and you'll be the next COBOL. You'll be COBOL. Like you have to kind of you can't be that conservative to never add stuff like Java. They never add backwards incompatible stuff, and they're slowly turning COBOL.
Yeah, they are exactly. That's a good example, I think, of stagnation.
But from a quality perspective, I mean, isn't still COBOL really, really good?
No, it sucks.
From a quality perspective.
From a what?
From a quality perspective. All COBOL systems, don't they still work quite perfectly?
They work as good as they used to do. Yeah. If you were to create the same system now in some other language, I think it would work just as well.
But why do they suck? It's an interesting question.
For example, for quality reasons, they don't have the type safety, so you get more runtime errors. Mm-hmm. They don't have the abstractions. They don't allow the abstractions that you want to express. For example, to model your business, you can't do your own kind of DSL thing to define your own language, which will make it easier for maybe non-expert programmers to describe business logic. There's a lot of things that I think. And also, the kind of in terms of debugging in the JVM, you can always inspect everything, which I believe is harder in COBOL.
I mean, maybe the reason why some people believe like COBOL is high quality, good system, and like with the argument like, well, you have this banking system, they're running COBOL and they're run for ages and years and years. But probably the reason for that is I'm thinking of like an house of cards. So
Yep,
I would
yep.
say like it's you have removed all the bugs during the years.
Yeah.
So
it's 50 years of bug improvement.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So probably that particular system, that particular implementation is kind of
Yeah.
high quality, but that's because it's just in that state. I
Yeah.
mean, as soon as you do some refactoring and remove something, it all break down. That's a theory, at least.
So we are, which means we're not going to build the COBOL UI.
No, I think it's
So
it's a bit like science, like the latest physics prize, for instance, some quantum phenomenon that no one can realize have any practical implication. But perhaps in 10-15 years we will have super fast computers.
Yeah.
And I think maybe in language technology and development is pretty much the same thing. Eventually someone's going to come up with a paradigm or something that's just much better, and then we're gonna see a shift or something.
Probably.
I don't know.
speaking of paradigm shifts, let's move to this humongous, fantastic paradigm shift, or as I think you, Henrik, might think, lipstick on a pig, Windows 8.
Yeah.
Well, let's start off by saying, why does Henrik think Windows 8 is lipstick on a pig?
Well, I use Windows myself, so I don't really think it's a pig, but I think it's lipstick at least.
Yeah.
I haven't, to be honest, I haven't tested Windows 8 a lot. I have just, like, at first glance, it seems to me like it's Windows 7 in the background, and then I get Metro, which I don't need if I use a PC. That's not a tablet or a phone. And yeah, so that's basically why. I think that it's the defensive release. They wanna be sure not to. Soon everyone will think you have to have the touch interface and whatever, and they are being defensive and doing it.
Yeah. So, but what's happening now is that, and we'll actually probably come back to Windows 8 in the next edition of Unprepared Geeks, because that's just around the time for release of Windows 8. But what the CEO of Intel said was that basically that he's a bit worried about the release of Windows 8 because they're releasing it not fully baked. Whether or not that's buggy or if it's missing releases is up for debate. But the question is, again from a quality standpoint, is it okay to release an incomplete operating system? We, especially ourselves here, us Unprepared Geeks, we talk a lot about release early, release often. And that's basically what they're doing with Windows 8 here. But is it okay with an operating system?
Well, I mean, they have a very sophisticated update system. So, but on the other hand, I mean, it all depends. I mean, I think that most Windows users today are like online, always connected to internet. So if that's the case, then sure. They just to push out the updates and you get them. But of course, there probably are some users there that can't get those updates in an easy fashion. Then of course it will be a bigger problem, so to say.
Yeah. I think it's basically a good thing, and I think it's okay for operating systems too, even preferred. The problem is that Windows 8 is probably not for someone who thinks like I do in this regard, because I'm used to fixing breaking operating systems that I have to revert back to some older state and things. I do this for fun, but perhaps my dad or someone wouldn't really enjoy that as much, which puts it in a whole different light, I guess. But maybe not for Windows. But
but I think it's important that you maybe differentiate between what things you feel like, okay, we're not 100% certain about this, but let's release it anyway and see what people think. And that's some other things that we need to make sure that this works. Because there probably are some parts like critical parts of the system, which like if we have found bugs here, it's very serious. And some other parts, maybe some UI thing, you're not really entirely sure how people will react to this UI change. Maybe it's better to get it out there early, make people like come with the feedback, some will like it, some will not, and then you make changes over time. Because you can't. I mean, you can't be prepared. You can't prepare for everything.
Yeah.
Like every scenario.
But
You
isn't
can't
there-
test everything.
Yeah. But isn't there a risk involved? Because for me, the ultimate operating system release early, release often release was Vista, and we all knew what we thought about Vista at the time of release. They fixed it. They fixed it with Vista, the second release of Vista and Windows 7.
Maybe I'd say that's an example of release too early, but
not often.
I'd say Windows 7 maybe is a better example of release often.
Yeah.
That they released something, and a lot of people would argue that a lot of Windows Vista problem came because of there were no drivers for Windows Vista for hardware. So, and then when they released Windows 7 like a year later or something, very fast, and that was a good thing, obviously. So release often is good, release too early is bad. Maybe it's not the same thing entirely.
Yeah, for me it's, and here's the deal. I'm not sure. The one of the things I have, just for the record, we're agilists here at SmartBear. But one of the things I have most problems with is actually release early, release often. For me, it's kind of, if you release too early, it's kind of like starting a restaurant, and you get people coming into the restaurant, and they go. So I'd like a cheeseburger and a Coke, and you go, oh, sir, we don't have drinks yet. Why? No, we'll fix that later. We just wanted to see how you reacted to the food. We'll fix the drinks in a while.
That kind of release early is perhaps not so good, but maybe you could settle for just one dish with drinks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the key here. Like
it's a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I totally get your argument, and also from marketing perspective, it's maybe not wise to release very small features that is hard to market by themselves. So maybe you have to have some kind of bigger context. But I think it's really about like what you release in these small iterations. Like to make it sensible. Don't release like something that doesn't make sense by its own. Make a context, and like that particular release makes a purpose and could be used within like by its own.
And I think it's also about expectation management and marketing. You don't hit the big drum if you know this is an early release. Then you want to make sure the right kind of people are testing it. Maybe you want to put it on get it out on like Slashdot as a news item there, and get the right people to test it, and not your dad. And then you advertise it on the subway for your dad later on. Yeah. So you gotta I think it's good to release often if you kind of handle expectations and target the releases.
Really good comments. And next release, when we release something early, we'll put up a signpost, not for Henrik's dad. So that was the two news items we had to discuss. What we've been doing the last two episodes, we've had hit or miss. We are going to change it slightly today. Instead, play a game that's really popular here in Sweden called Marry, Boink, Kill, which basically I will give us here in the room 3 different items, and we'll say which one we want to marry, that's live with forever, which one we want to get rid of, kill, and which one we want to have a casual encounter with, Boink. And we'll start in social media. So Facebook has declared that it now has 1 billion users, and somebody of you said that's like half of the internet population.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, social media. Marry, Boink, Kill, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I like to Boink Instagram because they're hip and they're sexy. Then I think I want to kill Facebook because they're becoming too large. I mean, 1 million users. Oh, sorry, 1 billion users. That's like crazy. They must be stopped. So I guess I'll marry Twitter then.
Oh yeah, I'm actually pretty boring here, so I have the exact same stance. Facebook just has to go. It's no way it can stay. And the Instagram is like, Yeah, that seems hot. I don't know. I haven't really tried it, but and Twitter is what I normally do for reading. Well, sort of.
I disagree with both of you on all three. Actually, I think Facebook is. I've kind of come to accept it. I don't use it a lot, but compared to a lot of people, I don't use it a lot. But I think it has its advantages, and for those things, there are few alternatives. Twitter, I think I would Boink, because I think it's useful for at some point. I don't use Twitter a lot. I have an account, but if I want to, interact with some company or some famous person or something, and just get a quick answer, or look something up, what's happening in the like in the subway, then I just look it up on Twitter. And Instagram, I'm happy with killing Instagram, because I think it's just a fluke.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind boinking a fluke though. So I will actually go with you other two. Die Facebook. Next item. So there was this new website that came out called webplatform.org, which is basically a number of big players who have agreed on following standards and so on. And there's a lot of talk about HTML5, how to use it, how to build HTML5 based websites. What we've been talking about here locally is for mobile development, HTML5, native apps, or the elusive write once, run everywhere type of technology. Henrik, which one would you go for?
Web apps, that is HTML5,
Yep.
marry, because I think in the long run we will end up there. But I think the Swedish public broadcasting company, they said we will never ever make an app again, because HTML5 is the way to go. That I think they said it almost a year ago, and then now they're actually releasing a new app, which is just a web app basically. It's a native app but with a web browser, and that has got pretty shitty reviews in the App Store. So I think it's the way to go, but obviously people want to go in the App Store right now, and the technology is maybe not there for all mobiles, all platforms, all browsers. So I married that one, and then I think native apps is cool now because it's required for speed. So I bonked that one and kill the write once, run everywhere thing. I think it has never worked.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I want to marry the HTML5 stuff, because I think eventually it's going to go there. Like, I don't know. This is a preordained marriage. I'm 3 years old. My parents is making up this marriage for me. It's like, it's that way. And the native apps, they can be really.
We all know the feeling.
Yeah, great. And native apps are
memories,
cool. Are cool right now. And they have 3D effects, and who knows, you can play first-person shooters, so it's hot. And the right ones run everywhere. It's like I can go get my shotgun right now because it's gone.
Yeah, I have to be boring. I have the exact same arguments as you, and I really will put my like emphasis on the kill the right ones, run everywhere thingy, because I also believe like generating code for different platforms. It's a fine thought, but in theory you just get messy code and problems, and so remove that. Yeah, and I'll also marry HTML5 for the very same reason. It's the future, I hope, at least.
I'll go a bit contrarian, and I will actually say that native apps is the way to go. That's what I want to marry. HTML5 is fun and do something simple, but if you want to do something complex, like long-term marriages, native is the way to go. And my proof is the site itself, webplatform.org. It's not HTML5. It's almost like HTML1. But except for that, write once, run never. It's never gonna work. Finally, Ars Technica released some info about the browser shares in the world. Basically, what we can say is that IE still going strong, about 50% of the market, and then number 2 is Firefox with 20 or something, and we have Chrome, who's actually taken a step back with 18%. For the record, I think we're all Chrome users here.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Chrome and Opera.
Yeah, and Opera.
Yeah. I've always been an Opera user.
So the question is, which one do we want to marry, i.e. Firefox or Chrome, and which one do we want to boink and kill? And quickly.
Yeah, kill IE, a no-brainer. Marry Chrome is awesome. I guess I'll boink Firefox.
Yeah, I think I'll kill IE. I will boink Chrome, I think, but I sure want to marry Firefox.
I'm going to kill IE, no surprise. Boink Firefox, because sometimes you want to use one of the cool plugins, for example, download everything on the page, whatever, and I marry Chrome, because that's what I use mostly.
Okay, for me, I will kill Firefox before it kills my computer, because the latest release has been really buggy. It takes up huge memory. It's becoming a horrible experience. And I am actually boinking IE today. I meet IE, I don't know, once per month or something, and do something for a few hours, and then I leave it. And I will marry Chrome. Still. Although I do think that as a quality person, maybe we should consider using what our users use. I mean, 50% is using IE, and we should be using it. I honestly do think that there's a bit of snobism in using Chrome. I would even say that Chrome, and I'm using it, is a douchebag indicator.
But it's not snobism if it's right.
My grandmother.
That's exactly what a douchebag would say.
My grandmother got a new computer yesterday, actually, a Lenovo, and she installed Chrome on it.
Oh.
I'm just going to
Without
my last words in this discussion.
Okay, so the last word is that Henrik's grandma is a douchebag. Okay, and on that bombshell, we will end this episode of Unprepared Geeks. Thank you so much for watching, and my apologies to Henrik's grandma. I'm sure you're a fine lady. I'm Niclas.
I'm Erik.
And I'm Henrik.
And I'm also Henrik.
Bye.
Bye.